Yes. Good afternoon, morning, evening or night, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to, what's this show called again?
Is blank really as good as they say?
And the subject of today's Is Blank Really As Good As They Say is...
Well, everyone can see up there what it is.
Isn't it down there?
No.
What do you mean?
Yep, you're right.
Yeah, it's down there.
Well, it depends, actually.
No, it doesn't. It's always down there. God of War, if you haven't fucking got amazing powers of observation. Now, I just finished this game, 2 days ago?
Yeah? Wasn't it yesterday?
Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Either which way, I'm pretty fresh off the game.
And I watched you play it.
You watched me play it, so you've basically seen the whole game twice. First opinions out of the way.
So no spoilers.
No spoilers for now. I mean, this is just going to be very brief because the game's been out for ages now.
Yeah.
So
non-spoiler bit quick.
A quick one.
They made me care about God of War somehow.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite games from the last few years. Easily. It's just refreshing in this landscape that has so many cynical products to see a true vision that kind of is creative and reinvents itself and sticks to
Vision was the exact word I was going to use as well. Because I mean, this game, every element of it they nail it.
Yeah.
There's not any one aspect, like with Spider-Man, there were aspects that
you could jump to be like,
yeah. So, but overall, fantastic game. If you haven't played it, buy it and play it. Unless you don't have a PS4, because, I mean, spending like 400 quid is a bit much. But definitely play it. One of the best games I've played over the past, 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Good shit.
So, what, should we open the floodgates?
Yeah.
So spoilers, just warning you.
Yeah, we'll just...
If you care, just
go
as a
wherever
little
we
warning.
want.
Yeah, now we'll just talk about whatever. So... Where's the best place to start? I guess narrative?
Yeah, narrative. This game has a large focus on narrative.
A heavy focus, yeah.
But I was expecting more of it, to be honest. And
In what way?
I was expecting it to take away control more.
Mm-hmm.
And have less gameplay segments and have the gameplay sort of less intricate, less options, but...
So more like a Naughty Dog kind of thing.
I was expecting much more like The Last of Us because of how much the game is similar.
The game is clearly heavily inspired by The Last of Us.
Yeah. And in terms of narrative and the way you sort of go around with this kid.
Yeah, the relationship with that kind of father-son dynamic.
Which you build in and out of cutscene.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel as though this game got that aspect better than The Last of Us with how much the kid is involved with combat.
Gameplay, yeah. Well, you asked me whenever you finished it if I prefer The Last of Us over God of War, and I found it really difficult to answer because they're so different. Just on the most surface level of God of War is a fantasy game based on Norse mythology with fantasy elements, whereas just the whole context around The Last of Us is completely different. The vibe and tone is completely different.
They're both quite depressing.
Yeah, I'd say The Last of Us is way more hopeless and oppressive than God of War is. There's more mystery and wonder to something like God of War just because of the inherent
that's one thing that I
depth of
that I like over God of for God of War because the universe is so unique, whereas The Last of Us at the end of the day is zombies.
Yeah. Not to constantly be putting The Last of Us down because that game's really good on its own right, and does what it's doing really well. But it's taking kind of similar concepts to what The Last of Us did achieve and applying them into this reinvention of itself. Because I don't know about you, I wasn't very familiar with God of War at all, even remotely.
The only thing I remember from the original games was watching a video on YouTube of all the brutal murders in God of War 3.
I think I might have watched that as well. But even then, it was just faint memories.
Yeah.
And I listened to like every episode of IGN's PlayStation podcast and stuff. Whenever God of War would come up, it was always like, screamy, angry Kratos. Oh, that silly old guy. And it was kind of not that serious, kind of a joke, sort of more about the action spectacle of it all, not being grounded by anything.
Yeah.
I don't know because I haven't played the previous ones, but it does seem way more. I don't know if grounded is the right word, or if it's just taking itself slightly more seriously, or the fact that it just has a more focused narrative that isn't just get revenge.
Yeah.
So I guess the actual story is
it does a lot of things that I wasn't expecting anything from the game, but just in terms of where it starts and where it ends, it takes a lot of twists and turns.
Yeah.
That I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah, it jumps all over the place and introduces new elements constantly.
Yeah.
Like 1 minute. Because the actual motivations of the main characters are very simple.
Yeah,
and the motivation stays the same.
I think that sort of storytelling is perfect. Mm-hmm. Like the overarching story is very simple, but it's what happens between the characters that is complex.
Well, it's very similar to something like Lord of the Rings, another fantasy story, where the plot on paper is just destroy MacGuffin, got it to go on long journey, but what it ultimately is about is the journey.
Yeah.
And all the twists and turns and the adventure of that whole aspect of it. And the game kind of tricks you at times to make you think the journey's nearly over when it isn't, or that the journey's ended before it could finish, and that kind of thing.
Did you ever find it frustrating?
How many times it's like...
It's always 2 steps forward, 1 step back in terms of the overarching story progression.
No, because there were elements outside of the Kratos and Atreus wanting to get to the mountain or whatever to get rid of the remains that I knew required more development outside of them just getting there.
Yeah.
So more directly, things like the villain of the game. What's his name again? Boulder? Is that his name? Every time there was something that would pull you off track, you could assume, we're going to get some kind of development around that side of the story, because it's kind of, you're either doing something to get to the mountain, or you're doing something to develop the other side of the story, whether it be Boulder's.
It is sort of like 2 stories alongside one another.
When the fun is trying to figure out how all of the characters you're introduced to kind of intertwine and relate to each other, and trying to figure out how long the gods in this world have been around, what they've been up to, what the history of the place is, because I guess from Kratos' perspective, we're never told how he gets to this realm or land or whatever, because he's obviously from Greek mythology. But it means from his perspective, it's all new to him too. He's not ultra familiar because he's a foreigner, so he doesn't really know what's going on. So he can be the one asking questions instead of it already being assumed.
Well, and the kid is a literal child, so he can't know everything.
Yeah. I think that's one of the best things about the story is the father-son dynamic.
It's sort of what the whole story is written around.
Yeah, of course. Both characters have arcs. Kratos is a different person by the end. The way he interacts with his son is completely different by the end. Atreus has an interesting arc of the secret that's hidden from him that makes him ill. Yeah. Which then the hubris of becoming a god and the cockiness that overcomes him once he realizes and finds out the truth about that, and then learning to bring it down a notch to try and be respectful and learn from his father's mistakes. Yeah. It's like a lot of shit. Like,
it's way more depth than you'd expect from a God of War game.
But it's not just expected beats, but it's just good writing.
Yeah.
You know?
That's something about it that's really good as well. It doesn't feel crammed in, like a story has been forced into a franchise that shouldn't have one like this. It feels natural, and it uses the past to make this game relevant.
Yeah, and one of the things, like, I don't think you've seen Joseph Anderson's video on it.
No, not yet.
He overall obviously likes the game.
But
he had a couple problems with things like, I guess you'd call plot devices, like if you remember, Atreus gets the arrow tied onto him, and that's what Boulder punches.
Yeah.
Little things like that. I don't think he specifically had a problem with that one, but he had a problem with the boy falling sick at a certain point and stuff like that. Whereas from my perspective, I really appreciated how every element had a setup and a payoff, every single one of them. The sickness thing doesn't just come out of nowhere. There is setup for it. There's context given to it.
Yeah.
It's mentioned. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. Sure, the origin of what it is explained in dialogue from the head guy who's brilliant. But at least it's explained to you in some way. And things like that moment don't just come out of nowhere. Everything's grounded, and you can tell every element is designed and written in a way where they do. It's the Chekhov's gun thing, where it's like something's established, and it's not just throwaway for gameplay or anything like that. But it does come back.
It sort of has rules that it can't.
That's what I mean about the way it feels so just well thought out and grounded, and just really well structured in that regard. And you mentioned something about the pacing of the game and the way everything's delivered to you in comparison to something like The Last of Us.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's true or not. Well, I'm pretty sure this game is longer than The Last of Us.
It's way longer.
For starters.
It's 2-3 times longer than it.
It feels like the gameplay to cutscene, or whenever it takes control away, it feels like it's weighted in gameplay. Because there are countless parts where you're just in combat. I think it helps that the game has a fucking great combat system. But
there are great moments where the story is enhanced by the gameplay.
Yeah.
Like the part where Atreus is feeling more cocky. He just stops obeying your commands.
Yeah.
And that's a great synergy between gameplay and narrative. That's a really clever way of implementing it. Something Last of Us actually does it as well. It's taking a principle or a gameplay design you've been doing over and over again countless times, but then at a certain point taking it away, and then you really realize, and the change is impactful based on that.
Yeah. Well, going from there then, we can go into gameplay. One slight gripe I have is the leveling up system. First of all,
there's so many. There's XP. There's
just the XP like skill tree. Without you there telling me to like level up, I probably would have forgotten for huge stretches of the game, because I feel like it doesn't tell you well enough. And I also feel like some of those skills shouldn't necessarily be things you have to unlock.
A lot of games fall prey to that design decision.
Yeah, because it's like they put it in the game for it to just work in the combat system, and then at the last minute took it out as something to give you.
There's some, even though they've already got like a gear system and perks and all of that kind of thing.
One thing. I mean, it doesn't take away from the combat, but I feel like if they'd have taught you to use that stuff in the beginning instead of giving you a description,
or trickled it more into major gameplay moments like a Zelda might or something.
Yeah.
Or have like a new move, enhance something to do with an area.
That's the thing. Like it's simple moves, like while you're dodging backwards, you throw your axe. Like, why does that need to be an upgrade? Because it doesn't tie into why couldn't he do it at the start of the game. So that
makes sense.
But I mean, it doesn't ruin the game by any means.
It's only like a nitpick, I'd say, really.
Yeah.
I did find a lot of the upgrading and armor and stuff quite overwhelming at first.
Yeah.
To get used to.
Yeah. It has a similar sort of thing to Destiny.
It's very similar, even the way colours. You have to like hold square to level things up and stuff, is it like Destiny?
I felt this game so much more satisfying because I remember early on, or relatively early on, there are these sort of portal things to another world.
Yeah.
And I put my hand in, and this level like 6 enemy jumps out, and I'm level 3 at the time. And I decided I was going to beat this guy no matter what.
Because he annihilated you, he killed you.
Yeah, he killed me in like 2 hits. So then I was like, nah, I'm going to do this. And from
skill of the game.
Skill and like, I can't think of the word, but
patience.
Patience, sticking with it. Managed to beat him. And it feels so satisfying that the game lets me do that way earlier on, and it rewards you for it.
Yeah, it's what Destiny's tried to go for, but have implemented quite poorly, in my opinion. But they don't just make them invincible.
No, exactly. Or the damage you deal, if I was dealing like 1 damage per hit, it would have been impossible.
Yeah. Well, it would be such a ridiculous waste of time as well.
But no, it was really satisfying. And overall, I feel as though the game is quite challenging. Yeah,
well, watching you play it, you were way more efficient at the gameplay than I was. I'm shit at games like this. So I play it on the easiest gameplay mode because I'm way more in it for the story and the narrative, and I want to experience that because I'm shit at it. So you have so many options in combat. I found I just keep forgetting them, but
yeah, that ties into what I was saying.
I would never criticize the game for that, because seeing you play it, really utilizing the shield, the axe, the like barehanded stuff, and all the different moves, and then you got the, what are they called, runics, something like that.
The shield like attacks.
Yeah, the like magic kind of stuff, and then Atreus and his magic as well. There's just so much stuff to juggle that makes for like a.
Yeah. I felt as though I'd sort of mastered the Kratos side, but I'd always forget that Atreus...
Yeah, it is a lot to juggle and think about.
It definitely is. And it can be overwhelming, but at least on the difficulty I played, it was never overwhelming to the point where I was suffering because I didn't know everything. I'm sure
you still got through every scenario.
I reckon this would be a game, if I were to have it at home, I would probably try the hardest difficulty. Just so I could
master it, I feel like it would be one of those really satisfying systems to master, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Another gameplay thing, the bosses, I thought were fucking excellent.
Because you always go on about how bad bosses are typically in video games, aside from the Souls series.
And something they did in this game, which in games like this bosses often don't, they have a moveset. And you can predict their moveset and learn to beat them, just like Dark Souls. Yeah. And it makes it so much more satisfying. Because, I mean, in the last fight with Boulder, I was struggling for the first half. And then I was recognizing these moves, and when I can do the parry, when to dodge. And it felt like a proper Clash of Titans sort of fight.
The moves have proper build-up animations, so you can tell when something's coming, and it doesn't feel bullshitty.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But that being said, there are a few enemies that, whenever they showed up, they pissed me off.
What enemies would you say?
Was it the Revenant? Is that what
the Revenant were kind of those witchy things with long necks that would teleport.
As soon as you find out how to beat them, they're not really a problem, but it took me a long time.
I googled it when you were playing it to see what the game wants you to do to deal with them. Because for me, they weren't a problem on the easiest difficulty. You could just Atreus and then they're just dead. But on yours, they could be quite difficult.
Again, once I started regularly beating them and then doing like the click and right stick move against them, it felt so satisfying. But yeah, overall gameplay.
Was there anything else with the gameplay you'd criticize, really? Just a couple enemy types and the upgrading, that's kind of it.
That doesn't really take away from it. Maybe in the boss fights, there's a few moments when it takes away control. I sort of understand why.
For like what? Like little animations? Where like Boulder grabs you and stuff.
No, that's fine because that's just to put you back into the arena. It's like between the parts. In the last Boulder fight, there's like 3 different stages. Yeah. But I think your health like fully regenerates between them, and it sort of took away something for me to not be able to do it in one go.
Maybe on the hardest difficulty it doesn't give you a health pack or something.
Yeah. But yeah, really good overall.
So that's the major mechanical thing. I suppose when you're not fighting, you're exploring. There's like a hub area where you can go and do like side quests and...
Side quests, really good.
Yeah, all the side quests have narratives in themselves, little mini ones, often tying into something to do with either world building or any of the themes, whether it be the father-son dynamic or anything like that. It's just really cleverly well thought out in that regard.
Yeah, you don't, especially in a game like this, you don't often get side missions that have their like own specific dialogue and their detailed areas.
Well, because when I first played the game and got a side mission, I of course went to do it because I was just curious. Is this just going to be, average open world game nonsense?
Yeah.
Which,
So I mean, if you take Spider-Man for example.
Yeah, like a Spider-Man side quest.
The side quest.
Where it's just clear an area or fight a wave of enemies.
Yeah.
But no, there's way more to it than that. And of course the weapons too. Like the axe is one of the most like ingenious game weapons.
Everyone's been saying it, but it's...
Yeah, of course.
It's like the Thor when you call back your hammer. And it feels so good in the thud in his hands.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, yeah, all the different things you can do. Like I remember when you first started getting good at the combat and you were like, this is really satisfying now.
And it really is. Of course, there's the way the game looks as well.
It's ridiculous.
It's breathtaking. Because I didn't really realise it was as open world as it was.
Yeah.
When I first started
I don't know
playing.
what to call it because it's kind of... You can go back anywhere you've been.
Yeah.
But it's not like a big Far Cry map or anything.
No, it's not an open world, but...
Even though there are parts that are quite open?
The hub area is open.
Yeah.
It's really hard to explain.
Yeah.
It's sort of like Dark Souls, the world design. Not in that it's like intertwining and stuff, but...
There's like a hub area with
yeah, you can go back
branches,
and forth yeah. But goddamn, the game looks good.
And I had HDR turned off.
Yeah.
Halfway through you playing it, I was like, oh shit, yeah, I remember I managed to turn it. I figured out once I finished the game, I can turn it on. And when I turned HDR on, it was like, holy fuck,
this is
joking. And I don't even have a PS4 Pro, so it wasn't even in 4K.
No.
Still.
This might be the best looking game I've ever played.
Yeah.
And the like giants in the game. The giant snake.
The giant snake, the giant from the end when what's her face is controlling it. There's this like sense of scale they're able to achieve.
I've never seen anything like it. It's unbelievable. When the snake first appears, like you were saying, you have this adrenaline rush and like this shiver down your spine because it looks it looks and moves and acts like something that big would.
Yeah, it has such weight to it. Like there have been plenty of games that have had big things in them before, but I don't know what it is that has just kind of been lacking, that punch that really kind of grounds it into the world.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what it is. And then there's of course the scale of the set pieces, like the big dragon fight or the fights with Boulder are really impressive. I really like the one where he's like riding the dragon and you like fall off it, and then it's like you have to run towards that, what's it called, the
tree thing.
Yeah, that tree thing. It's in Thor or whatever.
Yeah,
there are just loads of really good moments, and of course the music's really fucking good as well.
The soundtrack is amazing. I knew from at the start, the boy goes into the house, and then the camera pans around, and it has the deep, like chant. The vocals, they use it really well. Yeah, with Kratos standing in the door,
like a shadowy figure.
Just a moment that would just look cool normally, but has this weight to it because the soundtrack is so fucking on point. Yeah,
everyone has like their own theme. The Boulder theme especially is really cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Whenever that one comes in, and Kratos' theme. And there's kind of like a a theme that's directly intertwined with Kratos and Atreus as well.
Yeah.
That they use at good times as well. And the giant turtle as well. So much good shit. That turtle was what made me buy the game.
Yeah, I remember you saying. Little did you know there was a giant snake as well.
Well, that was the thing. Like, I knew really nothing about the game. And I feel like...
Yeah, I knew even less than you.
I feel like even for people who are big fans of the original trilogy, purely on a story front, I could see why you might miss the old mechanics and that type of game.
It does pay perfect homage to...
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But yeah.
There's plenty of stuff within the narrative that kind of hints at what was going on, how it's led to this point, and of course, it hasn't abandoned Kratos's history.
Yeah,
it still all happened, and it's cool the way it kind of teaches people who are new to the universe. Like, I'm sure a lot of people like us are now. I'm so fucking on board with whatever.
Yeah.
The series goes next, because of course there's the reveal at the end, the really clever reveal that you feel like an idiot for not figuring out about Atreus being Loki, which is like such a good nugget to just the hook for the next game is already there. That's always going to be just something in the background you're always going to be thinking about. It's like, you know what Loki is, what he represents, where his story is and where it goes, and how are they going to play with it, because lots of the characters are obviously based on Norse mythology, and those characters they've been twisted in ways where they're not just carbon copies of the stories you know.
Yeah.
So
well, you could know everything there is to know about Norse mythology and still be surprised by this game.
Yeah, exactly, because it's kind of the story and the thrust of the narrative like comes first over everything. So they purposefully withhold information and trickle it out just at the right pace, so reveals aren't spoiled, and you can kind of figure things out if you're paying attention. Like, you figured out the Boulder reveal being the son of
because of some dialogue from the head in the boat talking about Freya.
That was such a clever idea to have. I can't remember his name.
Mimir or something.
Mimir, I think.
Mimir.
Having him be the exposition device.
Yeah.
Because not only is the performance really good and his accent really good, but he's just a really interesting character. And it's
I
like
thought it was clever as well, because there's a part where Atreus goes away. And there'd be no one to talk to if you didn't
exactly. I mean, it takes some of the responsibility of Kratos to always be talking all the time. For such a stoic, kind of quiet character, it makes so much more sense to have that kind of middleman between them.
Yeah.
And it's so useful just in terms of delivering a story and adding, keep using the word context, but it does give context to everything.
It helps that he's a really likable character as well.
And that, he's probably the most likable character, I'd say. Just for being a head. There's plenty of humor as well. I think that helps really ground the characters. And it's not like annoying humor. It's all just based on the absurdity of things that are going on. Like, I'm going to cut your head off now. Kind of shit. So like,
it's quite few and far between, but it's not overbearing when it is there. Yeah.
And like the one where Kratos just takes a sip of that like wine from his home and just does the thing. Yeah. Just like shit like that. It's just nice little details. So where's it going to go next is the question.
Well, Loki is originally Thor's brother, right? Well, not originally, but that's like his story.
Yeah, and of course what's going to be freshest in our mind is Thor from the MCU.
Yeah. Well, this is clearly going to be a very different kind of Thor. Like, he's kind of a scumbag from what you can work out from the game.
But yeah, with Thor, the Thor and Loki we know from the MCU, Loki's like not his real brother. He's kind of like an adopted thing going on, so who knows if Thor's gonna steal Atreus or something.
I was thinking that, but it would seem kind of weird if that was the whole game, like trying to get Atreus back. It wouldn't seem right.
Yeah, they've got a challenge to kind of, because there's the kind of secret ending.
Yeah.
Where it's quite weird. They like go to sleep, and then it says years later, and then there's Thor comes down. Doesn't say a word, but just reaches for Mjolnir.
Mjolnir.
So yeah, I said to you, how are they going to start that one? Is it just going to be like the Boulder fight, but this time with Thor at the house again, or what?
I wonder if he'll just be like, you killed my sons, so I'm going to take your son. Maybe.
That's a good idea.
And there was that that thing on the wall of
course, yeah,
Atreus killing Kratos or something.
Yes, it's unclear. Some kind of magic like binding them together or something, but it looks like Kratos is dead in it, or dying or something like that. It's hard to tell.
Yeah. But I mean, from what they've shown at the end of this game, it looks like they have a plan for a sequel.
Yeah, you'd hope they'd have some kind of through line for at least some kind of trilogy, maybe. Yeah. Would be the hope. There's just so many like opportunities now, because they did leave so much from Norse mythology out, I think on purpose.
Do you find that annoying at all? Because they've clearly saved Thor for a sequel.
I'm okay with Thor just having like his brothers and sons and lackeys going off doing that stuff. There's Thor's dad, right? Odin. Mm-hmm. He's talked about a lot, and you never see him.
Yeah.
Unless I missed something, but
you never see Odin.
No, you don't. But I just mean he is alive in this universe, right? He's talked about loads, but
nobody says he's dead. So he's the Zeus equivalent. Mm-hmm. So he might be saved for the third one.
Yeah. I don't think it's an issue because of how focused the game is already. Mm-hmm. I think it would be more of an issue in a sequel, because Kratos and Atreus now need to have a new story and a new arc.
Yeah.
That isn't just them falling out, because they can't start, unless it's just like the reverse, where they start strong and end weak, with Atreus being a villainous character or what. Is there going to be a huge time jump? I don't know. They could fucking... Thor could take Atreus and then just vanish for like years.
Yeah.
Until Kratos like somehow manages to find them or whatever. Because on that Bifrost thing, like you never go to Asgard, do you? And it's there. They show you that it's there.
Yeah, that's true.
So clearly they'll be there.
It seems quite strange to me that they put that in the game with no hint at DLC or anything.
There are a few though, aren't there?
Yeah. I don't know if it's there just for the world to make sense, because that would be able to lead there.
I think that's why.
Yeah. But they can also do something with a sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, whatever happens in the next one, I'm in.
Obviously, yeah. But I didn't have an issue with them purposefully not using characters, but one thing I do, I guess, kind of have like an issue with is the world can feel kind of empty. I don't know the best way to describe it, but there's this...
Well, I remember asking you at a point, like, where are the people?
Yeah.
Are there people in this world, just like normal humans?
Yeah. There probably is some answer to it in like in one of the tabs in the lore thing, or a bit of dialogue or a side quest or something, because I didn't do all of them. But I suppose though you do fight those kind of like marauder kind of people at the beginning, but it's like you never walk through like a camp or are told about a city or something. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of a feeling more than anything, because wherever you're going, it's always like abandoned or it's just kind of trolls and monsters and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know if the place that you're in, because I assume that's not like the whole realm where you go in the game. Is that like a place where gods were?
That's how I'd like just in the back of my mind figured it as being some weird, isolated kind of you dare not go there kind of place. That's why it's just kind of monsters and...
Yeah, because I doubt they'd let like normal people use the Bifrost thing. Yeah, obviously. Go around.
But there's like no one there even.
No, there's only those two dwarves.
Yeah. Yeah, and at first the dwarf thing is kind of like quite a weird coincidence here and there with like, I made that axe and stuff.
Yeah, but then they go wherever they want to.
Yeah, like I do like how they explain. I like the twist on dwarves that they have, because we've seen dwarves in so many different fantasy products, and this I thought they distinguished them apart from the typical dwarves you always see.
Yeah, definitely.
What else is there really? Anything else flash into your head that you weren't keen on?
No.
Or like? Yeah.
It's one of those games that gets better the more you think about it.
Mm-hmm. Did you like the reveal of the Atreus' mum being like a giant?
Yeah. I was confused because she has that axe belong to her, but she's not a god.
Yeah.
And Kratos knew that. But it makes sense in terms of the story, and I think they revealed it right at the end because people would figure out that it's Loki too quickly.
Yeah. They had to do it for that twist to work, or that reveal to work.
Yeah. But yeah, I think there are very, very few things wrong with this game.
So all in all, it is as good as they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. Like, games like this don't come around very often, and it makes all the like cynical games coming out around it look that much worse to me.
We were just talking about yesterday. We were talking about Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah,
and how like that's a single player game, and this one came out months ago. That is so much better. How can they justify themselves?
There's something so obvious to me when that artistic side is kind of manufactured. There's something so manufactured and false about things like Assassin's Creed or Destiny to me, where it's like making money, charging for all microtransactions and DLCs, and just having a fuckload of content is the first thing.
You see right through the art and into the product.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas God of War, it doesn't feel like a product. It obviously is, but
it's so genuine, and it's the same reason
it was made for people that play games.
Yeah, and it's the same reason I really enjoyed Spider-Man as well. It doesn't take the piss out of you as a player. It doesn't try to sell you shit constantly. It doesn't add some kind of artificial grind just to try and get you addicted. The game's addictive and forces you through it. What hooks you to it because it's just inherently interesting.
Because of the good gameplay.
The world building is so good. The story is so good. The gameplay is so good. Like there's so much to unlock and find and do that is all been like, it's like a web that's so like every strand of it is so clearly thought out and come together to make a full,
instead of it being a percentage chance and you're hooked on trying to get that.
Whereas like games like Destiny or Assassin's Creed, you feel like the animation team is so vastly different from the team working on like I don't know, UI or
the pack team.
Yeah, the side quest team, you know. Whereas everything just feels so cohesive. It's awesome, man. All the care and attention really does show.
Yeah.
And it's it's no surprise, like, I always talk about on John Media how I, like, fell off of playing games for ages, and it was right at the peak as the real cynical kind of shit was...
It was just after Destiny.
Yeah.
Which was the big poo-poo.
Yeah, that was, like, a really bad time for games. It was all... Everything was starting to turn into the live service thing.
Yeah.
And now we've just kind of accepted that the majority of big AAA games that come out are just live services. So for me, that was just a... But then the Switch came out with great single-player games on it that were reminiscent of the things that I liked about playing games in the first place.
Yeah.
And then I've just been playing the PS4 this year because of games like Spider-Man, because of games like PS4 that are just like the games.
Been fucking nailing it.
Yeah, Sony have had a year easily as good as Nintendo's from last year with Mario and Zelda.
I mean, this shit that's been coming out recently on PlayStation is better than like the peak of Xbox 360 days.
It's better.
Mad.
It's peak than like the last couple of generations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just they know what they're doing, and it's the type of game it gels specifically with me as well. Like I'm a sucker for like myths and mythology. Well, mythology is myths, but you know that whole aspect. And of course, with Spider-Man, I love Spider-Man inherently. So they're just choosing good projects. Whereas something like Xbox is throwing all this money into something like Recore. I don't give a shit about Recore. There's nothing that inherently interesting about it, you know.
Yeah.
Well, even something like Sunset Overdrive, which I think is a good game mechanically, but it's not Spider-Man.
No.
It doesn't have that hook. Yeah. Anyway, we're going on now.
Yeah, getting off topic. But yeah, buy the game. Don't be a dum-dum.
It is as good as they say.
It is. And if you have an Xbox, sell it.
Sell it after you play Red Dead, if that's what you've got.
Well, I might as well get that on the PlayStation. Get content 30 days early.
Really? They get it early. That's something that needs their fucking end as well.
Yeah.
I'm sick of that.
But it's just like this skin for your horse's saddle.
Unless it's Destiny, where it's like loads of content you just don't get for a year.
For a fucking year. Anyway, good afternoon, morning, evening or night, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to